What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, giving you your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. But tonight, we're giving you your look at what's going on at the Academy Awards. Dave, uh, whew, just to preface it, right? We did our Oscars predictions. We were pretty much like, this might be the most boring Oscars we've had in some time. Everything seemed pretty locked up. The acting categories, directing categories seemed pretty much set. Best picture, we're like, maybe this could happen, but we all thought it's going to be chalk. This night was anything but chalk. Dave, Parasite, the big winner tonight. 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director for Joon-ho and Best Picture. A foreign film won Best Picture.
First
Dave,
time.
your reaction?
Absolutely insane. Absolutely incredible. Parasite won more Oscars than 1917. Insane. I guess there was like little hints when 1917 didn't win production design and Once Upon a Time won that instead. And then when 1917 only won one of the sound awards, not both, Ford versus Ferrari getting in the mix. I guess that was a start, and the next thing we know, the Bong wave begins, and man, it's it's amazing when you actually see the best movie get recognized like this. You think back to Moonlight, maybe even Spotlight to a lesser extent, but certainly Moonlight winning, where they actually picked the best movie, the movie that people like the most, and we were so prepared, so ready for the movie that people like, but not nearly as much as this movie to win in 1917, and it didn't happen. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and I think where I had gotten to, and where a lot of people had gotten to in 1917 was, it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie, well made, technically incredibly impressive, but when you compare it to a couple of the other films, specifically for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Parasite, it was like, man, how can you not have one of those win? And to see Parasite with what it did on every level, the technical achievement that it was, the writing achievement that it was, the acting achievement that it was, and to break through in this way that only one other foreign film in the last couple of years I can think of, and Roma, has done similarly. Just so impressive. And man, when it won for Best Original Screenplay, that was the moment I was like, this night might be going in a different direction than we all thought it did. What was your reaction to that?
So that was one I thought was possible because of the Writers Guild win, but yeah, I mean that's a huge category, and yeah, to see that, I was starting to get ideas, but I was prepared to be let down throughout. It's funny. I think overall the show went pretty well. I mean, there's some things to critique as usual when you're talking about 3+ hour broadcasts, but yeah, man, this is truly a landmark Oscars. Like, you can't overstate it.
Yeah, and Bong, when he got up there for the international film, had a very nice speech. Ended it with, "I'm ready to drink." He felt like his night was over, and then he wins for directing. If you watch and stop the reactions, pretty much all the directors were like their eyebrows go up, especially Sam Mendes, who was like, I think he felt like it was in the bag for him.
Right.
And Bong gets up.
He was right to think that 15 the last 16 Directors Guild winners won Best Director. The only time that didn't happen was Affleck for Argo when he wasn't nominated for Best Director. So we have to go back to, this is the first time in 16 to 17 years. Like it's kind of insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Bong gets up there and has an absolutely amazing speech, giving praise to all the other directors, gave Scorsese a very nice moment, and Tarantino as well. So that was just getting to be his lovely self up there. And then they actually won for Best Picture, and I'm still like kind of reeling from it. Man, it is nice to see. How do you explain this? Do you think this is preferential balloting at its finest? Where a lot of people were probably like, Once Upon a Time first, Parasite second, or 1917 first, Parasite second, kind of like splitting it that way, but really that like number 2 spot coming in strong.
Yeah, well, you think with preferential ballot, if Parasite has just the most fans where very few people are ranking it very low, that's helping it, right? And I mean, we talked about it with the predictions episode, but there was just a lot of, data points with Oscar history and award season history suggesting that 1917 was also a very uncommon, unlikely Best Picture winner in the same way Parasite was, just in terms of winning. Both films did not have any acting nominations, and 1917 didn't have an editing nomination. Like, there's just some important bellwethers that both were missing. So it was tough to look at the certain precedent. So I'm not sure if just maybe 1917 just didn't have enough broad support as we thought. Maybe the technical support was there, but then you think of screenplay, acting, certainly weaker points in 1917, relatively speaking. Perhaps that goes it led to. I don't know. We'll never know. They don't release the votes. We have no idea how close it was, which is frustrating. But
release the votes.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
I mean, and thinking too, just looking back, 1917 won the Producers Guild this year. That's won 10 of the last 12 Best Pictures, but the other 2 times were Moonlight and Spotlight. So it's man, this is really gonna. There'll be a lot of pieces about how this prognostication didn't work. But that's what I said last week. I was like, well, we have the SAG win for Parasite. Actors make up like the biggest group of the Academy for sure, over thousands of members or actors. So that was the hope, right? But I was a little worried when it didn't win Best Editing, and Ford vs Ferrari won. Said I was like, oh, Parasite might be falling off now. But man, happy to be wrong about that sentiment, man. This is so wild.
What a moment. Yeah, very, very pleased. And don't usually walk away from the Oscars, especially after last year and Green Book winning, having the whole buildup of Bohemian Rhapsody and the critique of that as a movie. Just kind of felt like coming to this year, we were just destined to have an unsatisfying ending. So to have something this satisfying is just like it's like a straight shot of adrenaline into the system for me right now. There's a lot of other things to talk about. What other wins tonight moments really stood out to you? What was your takeaways from the night?
Sure. Ford versus Ferrari winning editing and sound editing. That's awesome. Looking at all the wins, there was some stuff that we had predicted. We felt were really confident or almost locks, right? Little Women costume design, Bombshell makeup, Joker score, Rocket Man original song. There was a lot of stuff we were confident in, but you look at the Best Picture field. Funny enough, of those 9 movies, the only one to go winless tonight was The Irishman. Funny enough, and that makes Marty's now the first person to go 0 for 10 twice with Best Picture. He also did it with Gangs in New York. I just saw that tonight. A few months ago, and we said this with the predictions, when we thought Irishman Once Upon a Time would be bigger forces this year. Irishman going winless, I thought that was blasphemy. You told me that one on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely, but I think it's one of those things also where they kind of ran into a buzzsaw in some of the categories. Like you're thinking maybe Pesci or Pacino will get a Best Supporting Actor, but Pitt just locked that up from the beginning. Right. Also a great moment when he got up there. I thought his speech was very charming, very Brad Pitt-esque, which is nice. Then you look at like Best Actor category. That was also locked up with Phoenix. So then you're moving down into the technical categories, and an incredible year for technical work in movies. And the visual effects was probably the category that had the strongest chance due to the de-aging and just the extent of it. But visual effects went to
1917,
which amazing technical achievement. So it's just one of those years for it, unfortunately. Still an awesome movie, and I was glad to see the awards spread out the way that they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone getting a little bit of love. Jojo took home adapted screenplay. You already mentioned Little Women getting the costume design. Score went to Joker. And you were saying that the person that won for that is a Tony away from an EGOT?
Yeah, Hildur, she just won a Grammy for Chernobyl. Not sure how that works again, but yeah, so that's good. That's cool. we know Cynthia Erivo is still only a Oscar away for EGOT as well.
Crazy.
We know how talented she is. And I think an interesting theme, I guess, or recurring aspect of the show was the prevalence of music. Like, we know they're going to do every best original song. That was mentioned. We know they're going to sing for In Memoriam. Okay, that's a lot of music. But then they add Eminem doing a full rundown of Lose Yourself.
Why?
Previous best original song winner back in like 2003, I believe. Which he didn't even accept that award at the time. And then there's also that I forget his name, the guy who did like the rap recap real quick, basically doing a Lin-Manuel rap, Manuel rap, but not being Lin. Yeah,
a lot of music.
And I think it still moved pretty quickly overall. I thought the show, like, there wasn't any like major low points to me, but I feel like we could have trimmed that music, because you think there wasn't any like montages. Fuck yeah, because they just did montages with the acting noms, which I thought worked really cool.
Yeah.
So it was still pretty tight, but yeah, too much music.
No, I completely agree that the I thought the montages worked well. It felt pretty tight. I felt like there was a bit of a lull around the time they're doing most of the technical categories, which they always have. I wonder if there's a way for them to do like a medley of the best songs, or the songs that are nominated for best original, because like it's awesome hearing Elton John, but a couple of the other songs, I just was like, let's just move this along. And Eminem, I mean, what the fuck was that? Like, why? I still don't understand. Literally, when he came out, I just was like, this is so pointless and just going to make us run over time. Already, they went 30 minutes over time. How about like people that came out to give out awards? I had a couple of people that stood out for me as good presenters, but I want to hear from you first. Who stood out to you?
Yeah, I think one other thing we could have tweaked was sometimes, not every time, there would be someone in like the stands in the walkway, an actor presenting the presenters, like introducing them. Like it just cut off the flow. Like Zazie Beetz did it for the doing the score medley. Like, didn't need those. That's fine. Like I feel like with the announcer and the way the presenters were going, the lack of a host was relatively inconsequential once again, but like that was another weird choice, like the excessive music. For presenters, I really liked Will and JLD, Will Ferrell. They were hilarious. Wasn't sure what bit they were doing at first, and then like they really rocked it. Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph just being themselves. That's awesome. And early on, Diane Keaton I thought was really funny, perhaps unintentionally. And then, the cats joke. Yes. That was amazing. Truly a great callback to have that make fun of cats for set of visual effects now. And I was surprised Corden agreed to do it initially, because I know he had like ripped the movie. He's like, I heard that was terrible, remember? And then I realized, oh wait, you're also ripping the movie again. I get it. That was smart.
No, I thought that was great. I thought most of the presenters were pretty good. To your point about the people introducing the people who were saying the nominees, George McKay actually called it out at the end. He's like, yeah, we're short on time, so I'm going to come up here to announce who's going to be announcing the awards. So let's just keep doing that. Like he just called it right out, which I appreciated from a young actor like that. You named a lot of the good ones. I thought at the beginning, I guess they probably didn't give out an award, but Steve Martin and Chris Rock were absolutely awesome. Like on their game. I wish they had taken a shot at Jeff Bezos for not paying more in taxes. I thought that for sure was coming, but I'm okay with that. I also thought Tom Hanks, he didn't give out an award, but he talked about the museum opening for the Academy in December. And I thought he was hilarious, kind of, talking about how they were all over there working on it today. And Brad Pitt was working with his shirt off, and Colin Jost had a shirt off too. He's like, no contest there. That was killing me. What did you think of the speeches? I thought like we said, Bong, great speech. I thought Brad Pitt had a great speech. Renee, I don't really know where she was going with that.
Renee was kind of all over the place all year. Like, not bad. She seemed to be scattershot, but you could tell she meant well. So it's whatever.
And what about Joaquin? How did that land for you?
I loved Joaquin's.
Yeah,
he's been trying to say something meaningful this whole time, And I like hearing that, you know,
Yeah.
like rather than do the bland, let me list a bunch of names. And like, you know, he mentioned in the beginning, he's like, yeah, I've been a dick before. Like I've made mistakes. I never said I was perfect either. But like, you know, I using that platform, using that space to actually say something meaningful that is honestly completely inoffensive and should not be like seen as anything partisan. If you really think about what he's saying, I like hearing that. You know.
No, I completely agree. I thought it was a nice speech. I saw people online kind of going back and forth on it. But I appreciate that he's using the platform. And also I thought it was he wrapped it up really nicely, giving his brother River a shout out.
Rip.
Speaking of Rip, Billie Eilish doing the In Memoriam singing yesterday with Phineas on the keys. Wow. Little goosebumps when she first started, man. I thought she absolutely killed it. Now I just want to hear Billie Eilish do more Beatles covers. Like, just give her all the work.
I mean, coming off the 5 Grammy wins, she did put her foot in her mouth recently talking about hip hop and lying with that. So maybe we'll talk about that at a later date. But yeah, with this, now we know the Bond song. We're gonna hear her Bond song in less than 2 months or so.
She's in fuego, man.
Billy's crushing it, man. 18 years old.
Completely in fuego. Other thoughts, other things you want to shout out, things you like, didn't like.
So we mentioned the music. Now I thought Elton John's rendition of "I'm Gonna Love Me Again," the original song they made for Rocket Man, was fantastic.
So good.
I mean, we know, you know, Elton can sit at a piano and rock a room like few can. That goes without saying. But it just kind of reminded me that, oh yeah, that song's actually like really great. Yeah. Like I kind of forgot because it's I heard it back in May. It's been a while.
A deserved win for that song. And yeah, Elton, man, he sounds really good. Like he's either in the middle or just finished up his final tour. So
yeah, he said this before. Maybe it was at the Globes, but he's like, yeah, me and Bernie have never really won anything like this before. And it's like, people are being like, why does Elton keep saying that? He's won Grammys and he's won Oscars before.
Yeah, he had an Oscar already, but like, maybe with Bernie.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe but Bernie's won stuff too. We just got to ask him. What do you mean by that?
How about
one of the awards we thought was up in the air, certainly was not a lock, was animated feature film, which ended up going to Toy Story 4 in the end, an early award of the night. We know Klaus had won a few things. Missing Link even won the Globe, so we were seeing what happened, but we didn't get the full anarchy moment. Toy Story 4 still won in the end.
Yep. No, that I was pleased with that. Only seeing that one from the category, I was glad that one won. And other than that, there wasn't anything that stood out too much. I mean, Laura Dern won. I guess I was surprised Parasite won screenplay. I really expected Once Upon a Time. Let's go to Tarantino, but like you said, that one was a possibility in play. Right. And yeah, adapted screenplay going to JoJo. That was kind of like the thanks for coming out award for Taika.
Right.
But I thought he had a nice speech when he was up there too. You know,
he did. Yeah,
seemed a little overwhelmed, but overall good.
Yeah. Honestly, I was kind of hoping he'd have like something more clever to say. To be honest, Taika, you know, but it's all good. I mean, in terms of awards that like were actually like in play, obviously considering how well it went for Parasite tonight, I guess the award that I'm most disappointed in is adapted screenplay, just because I really wanted Little Women to win. I guess then after that, I guess Little Women for score as well. We both really like Des Plate's score. But yeah, man, the good shit won. It's pretty wild. American Factory won doc feature. We kind of expected that. And
no Oscars for Thanos.
No Oscars for Thanos. Marvel is now 0 for 10 in best visual effects. Pretty wild. They can just keep all the money they make. I'm sure they'll be happy with that.
I thought one thing that the show did really well was they did not muzzle the presenters at all about calling out the discrepancy in the racial difference in how many white people are nominated for these awards versus black people.
Steve Martin and Chris Rock kicked that off right away.
Yep. The disparity between how many men are nominated for these awards versus how many women are nominated for these awards was called out a lot. And I thought actually a really great moment when they had
like 60-30. It's still a really bad split.
Yeah, and they had Sigourney Weaver up there with Gal Gadot and Brie Larson, and they announced that the conducter for the live band is the first female conductor, and then they did the medley of all the scores. I thought that was a really great moment. So they really did a pretty good job this year of just kind of letting the show like just be what it was supposed to be. They did, like, not having a host, I think, allows them to be a little bit more creative with some of these things and allow more people to get an input, which is just delightful.
Also, no one really got played off with their speech, right?
Parasite almost did. They shut the lights off on them.
Well, it was like that too. It's like, honestly, we're there to watch people win and tell us how they feel about winning. So if it's going to go over, let it go over. Right. And as we've been saying, cut the middlemen, presenter, announcer people, cut some of the songs. That way it's even more baked in time to hear people win. Similar to idea with that. There's those like honorary awards that they gave out to like Wes Studi and some other folks. David Lynch.
Gina Davis.
And Gina Davis. They used to do that at the actual Oscars. They should do that again. Like, I'd like to see those people talk.
Yeah.
Part of it. Like, that just seems like a more valuable thing to present
than Eminem
in the main broadcast than Eminem. Like, I feel like you could make it fit, I think, pretty simply. So
no, I think so too. And there's definitely fat to be cut, and it's not a perfect broadcast, but it feels like it's getting better. It feels like they're definitely listening to more input and kind of figuring out how to make this more of a pleasurable viewing experience. Also, just a shout out to someone I know we both stand for, Olivia Colman. Just so delightful. Just put her in front of a microphone more often. She's always just so fun. Any other thoughts? I mean, I'm still like stirring off this Parasite.
I know. You know, it's so I'd love to get a more accurate breakdown of the demographics in the Academy, just because Parasite clearly had some really broad support, and that's despite the fact that it's a foreign language film. It's just kind of hard to grasp, you know. And I mean, there's a lot of talk about, you know, we have these every year, those anonymous voter diaries where they express some hot take because they don't have to put their name on it. And there was some, you know, like borderline xenophobic thoughts on Parasite because it's not in English and shit like that. And it's kind of cool to see that shit get shot down in such a major way, you know. Like, I mean, I was kind of preparing myself out. All right, 1917 wins Best Picture, but Bong still got director. That's more than I expected anyway, realistically. So I'll take it. And then we actually get the whole thing. It's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah. What a night, you know. I'm just so pleased with this Oscars. You know, that obviously the awards the nominees could have been more diverse. But in the end, having this as the outcome just feels like the Academy is moving in a direction that feels right, which is nice. And I think the work that they've been doing to build out the Academy, bring in more people to make it a more diverse population, hopefully is moving in a direction where we're starting to see this sort of thing happen more often. The movies that actually deserve it, the people that actually deserve it, are getting the nominations, getting the awards, getting the recognition, because for too long it's been just kind of cut and dry one way. And I think seeing more and more of this sort of thing happening is just really encouraging.
You know, thinking back too, I mean, obviously female directors are still getting underlooked, to say the least. That's obvious. But the people that are winning Best Director is actually being quite diverse. You think, obviously, Bong winning, first Korean nominated, period, let alone win. I think he's first Korean nominated.
Goran.
Before that, we've had Cuarón, we've had Inarritu, we had Del Toro, we had a lot of Mexican men. I mean, Damien Chazelle was like the last white guy to win. Ang Lee, not that long ago. Like, it's Best Directors. Yeah. It's been pretty diverse. So. Especially with the winners, so that's cool. Yeah, man, this is awesome. I'm looking forward to doing early predictions for next year.
Yeah,
I made a doc of movies coming out this year, and it's very, very long already. So there's lots of
stuff. Is Dune this year?
Dune's this year. Dune's the Dune's our December holiday movie because there's no Star Wars or Avatar this year.
AKA the 1917 of this year. It's
Imagine Denny.
It's gonna make that push. And I think in terms of technical awards, I think it's gonna be right up that alley. But you're gonna have Chalamet balling out too. So I do want to say Timothy Chalamet's jacket tonight was not a fan. The zipper, come on.
Yeah, he looked
a little kiddish.
I expect that shit from his buddy Ansel Elgort. You know, like that's a little like he's a really sharp looking dude. He doesn't need to downgrade like that. You know,
Florence Pugh though, I think
goddess.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw you retweeted this, but someone tweeted that people should be whispering to her to do a Madonna biopic every day, and I am 100% on board with that.
We already know.
Make it happen.
We already know Timmy's doing the Bob Dylan biopic, so let's keep that up. I'm sure we can get Saoirse doing something too.
I'm sure.
Shout out 1917 Deakins won cinematography, his second win in 3 years after waiting forever to win. I appreciate all the Roger Deakins thirst online. He is still a very handsome man, and I like seeing that. That's funny shit,
man. And so deserving. You know, when they were showing some of the shots and just thinking about all the different ones, whether it's the scene where they're in that blown up town at night with like the flares like lighting it, or him running across that field and how bright that is. It's just well deserved. So it's so nice to see these things kind of come out. The one thing I'm disappointed in that Once Upon a Time didn't get more love. You know, still won 2 awards tonight with best supporting actor and production design, which I was actually pumped to see it win production design. But,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a little disappointed just because it was so good. I feel like that's like like the timing of it almost hurt it a little bit. But Parasite came out when, like May, so Parasite's
also shout out the guys, the folks that won for Hair Love animated short. That was the heavy favorite. That was a nice speech.
Yeah,
you can watch that on YouTube right now if you want. Again, it's a short film. It doesn't take long. Yeah, man, this was great. It didn't feel long to me. I think that's because I was having a good time most of the time, even though it did in fact run quite long. So, resounding success.
I agree.
Yeah, even at our most optimistic, I did not expect it to truly go this way.
We're going to wrap up there for the night. We might have some more thoughts. This is our initial reactions right after the awards show wraps up. So we might have some more thoughts tomorrow, but we'll also be talking a couple other things on this week's podcast. So stay tuned and hit that subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever. Give us that follow, that review, share us. Peace out. All right, Dave. So why don't we move on to talk about Briarpatch from showrunner OG, The Watch. What was it beforehand?
Hollywood Prospectus.
Yes. Great name. Hollywood Prospectus host Andy Greenwald, longtime TV critic, finally taking his shot behind the screen. This seems like it had been coming. You know, if anyone that is tuned into The Ringer, tuned into The Watch, it's a podcast I think we both highly recommend. Andy has been pretty upfront about how he's like been collaborating with Sam Esmail a bit, giving him some feedback, really starting to get tuned into this world of these TV show curators, so to speak. And Briarpatch, based off of the novel by Roth Thomas of the same name, starring Rosario Dawson. First episode last Thursday. Second one was dropped on YouTube to watch for free. So Dave, let me ask you, how are you feeling about the first episode or two of Briarpatch?
Good. Yeah. So I watched both on YouTube, and which is a nice perk from USA. I think they did that before Mr. Robot maybe went back in the day. I don't remember, but yeah, definitely uncommon to just totally throw shit up there without any kind of paywall just to get people to check something out. I obviously I haven't read this novel from 1984. Don't read a lot of fiction these days, but I know Ross Thomas is pretty well liked for being a crime writer. So just kind of going in knowing that it was an adaptation of a well-liked mystery, I just kind of had those expectations. And then after watching first two episodes, I definitely feel pretty good about it just because it has a lot of those other things I associate with people in the Ismail orbit, namely just striking visuals and directing touches. And then when you combine that with good acting, it's usually pretty compelling. So I'm in so far. But what about you?
Yeah, it has caught my attention early. It feels like a mishmash of a lot of TV shows that we've been talking about, right? Especially recently with the end of the decade, the setting feels very Breaking Bad to me. They're Southwest Texas. They're right by the Mexico border, so
They
it's
literally
the
filmed
desert.
it the same place they've made Breaking Bad in Albuquerque.
So there you go. It has kind of the similar style to a show like Mr. Robot, as you just mentioned, in terms of the shots, in terms of kind of the weirdness of the show, and just the overall vibe and feeling around the show as you're watching it. So
Right.
I think it has all the makings of a show that we will really like, and it has Rosario Dawson, who very interesting lead. I think she's been great so far, very magnetic. I just thinking about her, it feels like she's been around in my mind forever, and she's just never broken through with like a role to me that's like, wow, Rosario Dawson, like this is it. She finally is like huge. Do you have that same feeling about her? What's your feeling of her?
Yeah, she's kind of like, I think, up and down in terms of like big roles, but I think of like Kids way back in the day. She was really young for that. That was just an ensemble piece. Um, I mean, I guess recently, the Night Nurse on the Marvel Netflix shows, Daredevil mainly, was probably her most high profile stuff recently. But no, I mean, I feel like she's always around and doing interesting things, which is cool because again, she's really good. So, and she's kind of just on Briarpatch, she's bringing you that uh, edge, trying to figure out the mystery character. It's familiar, but I think she's doing it well. So yeah, I'm liking what she's bringing so far.
Yeah, I agree that she's doing it very well. And someone else I think has been really impressive to me in the show so far is Jay Ferguson, who plays Jake Spivey, a veteran, now a military weapons sales person.
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, and he's
extra legal.
yeah, and he's friends with Pig, who's Rosario Dawson's character. I don't know if you mentioned that yet. And last time I really was tuned into his work. I mean, he's one of those that guy type of actors. You see him in a lot of things, but probably don't know his name. I remember watching him in Mad Men, and he was pretty good in that. Every time he came on screen, I thought he was pretty good. But he pretty much had a bit part. He's a role player. This feels like he gets to really do a little bit more, and I think he's been phenomenal in every scene. Like in the first episode when Pig goes to his house and is deposing him in his living room, just that was the scene that really pulled me into the series, and I felt like I was really in. Beyond the fact that they had a car blowing up in the first 5 minutes of the episode, but
Right.
I thought that was just electric, and every scene between him and Rosario Dawson just feels like it's such like a sexual undertone to it as well, with all of the like double speak and every dynamic that's at play there. I think it's really fascinating to see those two cook together. Any other characters that stood out to you, or any thoughts about any other performances so far?
I always like to see Kim Dickens, kind of similar that guy role. The Gone Girl, Fear the Walking Dead, a lot of stuff recently. She's always a welcome presence, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, we know Alan Cumming will be on this show. Perhaps he's the one leaving us at the end of episode 2, TBD. That's exciting. But yeah, I mean, there's like a certain like I think energy to it. It's like this manic, like lawless Texas town. So evil's afoot. Let's find out what that evil is. Like yeah, cool. I'm with that. Especially when like again, it's so high gloss about all the other aspects of it. So hoping it keeps going.
Definitely. Really looking forward to seeing more of this. Also, we just want to shout out, I'm not sure if it's Eddie or Edie Gathegi, who plays AD Singh, and I think he's fantastic so far as well. In every scene he's been in, I'm very curious about him. There's a lot of mystery going on, so I'm hoping that this wraps up well. And also the zoo breakout and the animals kind of roaming loose is like a nice like metaphorical undertone, it feels like, to all of this. So
lawless, wild.
Definitely. We're going to talk about some other lawless birds in a second, Dave. But first, I want you to give me your review. I'm going to give you the floor here for Dave's movie corner of The Assistant, a movie that just recently came out. You were able to watch it this weekend. What are your thoughts? Good movie, bad movie?
Good movie, The Assistant. This premiered at Telluride last year, and then also was just at Sundance. And it was only in 25 theaters this week. So it is still rolling out via Bleecker Street. So I'm not sure how wide it will end up going, but yeah, certainly limited so far. And it's I think a really impressive movie about Me Too, and specifically, I guess, a comment on Harvey Weinstein and Weinstein-esque figures in particular. The way the movie is actually, I think, really methodical and kind of slow to unwind. Julia Garner plays this young assistant at a film studio in New York City, and we know her from she just won a supporting Emmy for Ozark, and she's kind of just been around for a while. She's quite good in this, and she's been just about every scene. And her assistant character Jane, kind of, I think she's like her second month on the job, and is just kind of learning how complicit her workplace is in the assumed abuse of power dynamics from the executive head of her film company. And it's interesting because that film exec is never named or shown in the movie, which I think is a really important choice. It really focuses on everyone else, the kind of the infrastructure around people similar to her position in terms of like power and status, and then people further up the chain. And I think it's really important because this focuses on the culpability that people might feel about being a bystander, or even worse, an enabler to that kind of abuse of power. So yeah, you don't see any of that assumed bad things happen, but it's on the mind of everyone, and in offhand comments even joked about. So it really kind of all crystallizes towards the end of the movie, where Jane goes to HR to file a complaint about something, and her HR consultant is Matthew McFadden from Succession. And he's perfectly cast as an HR guy in the way he kind of talks to and around Jane and stuff. So I think it's a really strong movie, because again, the message is it's a little dark, it's a little sad, but I think it focuses on some important stuff that we kind of don't mention quite as much about what other people know about alleged crimes and whatnot. So I thought it was really good. Julie Garner is really strong in this. So it's the first movie from Kitty Green, and I could see her making some best first film list 11 months from now. So keep an eye out.
Interesting. Not a film that was really on my radar, but I love the concept. Probably one that I'll wait to come out on Amazon to watch. But again, you were talking about the choice to not name the exec. I feel like it sounds like it was a smart choice in order to make this a little bit more of an impactful story and focus on the message more than like the person, so to speak. So definitely interesting. Why don't we move on to Birds of Prey, though? Talking about that Harley Quinn, dog. After an amazing showing in an amazing superhero movie, Suicide Squad.
Academy Award winning Suicide Squad. Don't you forget it.
More Academy Awards than The Irishman.
That's correct.
And Gangs of New York combined. Kind of crazy.
And Avengers Endgame.
Yeah. So Suicide Squad comes out a couple of years ago.
2016.
Not much good to say about that movie, but I think one of the things that came out of it was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Pretty good. We enjoyed her performance. She seems to fit the role well. She's obviously incredibly captivating every time she's on screen, no matter the role. And then DC rolled out their plan, and Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. This has been on the radar for a while. Finally dropped this weekend, starring outside of Robbie, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, Journey Smollett Bell as Black Canary, Rosie Perez playing Renee Montoya, a police officer. Who else is Ewan McGregor?
Black Mask.
Yeah,
Chris Messina as Victor Zsasz. Some
and where's the girl here?
A lot of well-known
Ella J. Basco.
Batman rogues, but definitely lesser-known characters than, say, definitely Suicide Squad, which gave you Joker and Harley Quinn and a Batman cameo, and even other popular people like Deadshot, So definitely I think the movie definitely makes a point of wiping its hands of Suicide Squad, right? Maybe even almost too much. There's almost too much looking back at the Joker's absence in the actual story, not just in the meta-ness of the movie itself. Definitely. But yeah, it's definitely a new take, a new direction. You can look at that just from the way the camera works. Margot is not like lustily filmed this time. Nope. As the attractive woman that she is. It's like actually a little bit more mature and just not as gross as it was before, where she was just like kind of fetishized.
Yeah.
So it's certainly a welcome improvement from the first time.
Yeah, I mean, you even think about Harley Quinn's introduction in Suicide Squad, where she's like hanging from the jail cell with those like bed sheets, and it's just like they were going for something completely different in this movie than they were here. Basically the setup is Harley Quinn and the Joker have broken up. Harley Quinn is looking to find a way to make it known that she's independent, doesn't need no man. So she blows up a chemical plant, and it sets off this chain of events, kind of driven along also by the MacGuffin of this jewel that has these codes.
Bertinelli diamond.
Yes. And it has these codes to get all this money in the Swedish bank account, because the Bertinelli family was murdered when the Huntress was very small. That's one of the twists of it, so I won't. Yep. I'll try not to go too far into it.
Well trodden ground for Huntress' backstory.
So I guess before we get too far into it, this is a movie that has an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, getting very well reviewed critically. Only made 33 million this weekend though. Maybe not very well reviewed, but positively reviewed, we'll say. How are you feeling about Birds of Prey, the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn, Dave?
I feel good about it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's definitely in my top 3 for these DCEU movies. I think I probably still like Shazam a little bit more, but between those two and Wonder Woman, those are my favorite ones. Yeah. The box office is very eyebrow raising, to say the least, just because kind of everything was leading up to Birds of Prey doing really well. It had really no competition in terms of an event film at this time. I mean, Bad Boys for Life, which was a surprise hit in its own right, I mean, that had already been out for 3 weeks. And before that, the last event movie was, I guess, Star Wars. So it's like you kind of look at the breakdown, and it's just like the continued success of holdovers like 1917 and Bad Boys that are just kind of taking its lunch. But I think part of it might be the really like obnoxious title, the subtitle in particular. Like maybe if we just called this Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey or something a little simpler, it might have got the message across. I'm not sure. Because superhero movies, you kind of assume that they're just baked in success, right? But this did 20 million less than Shazam, which already was a modest success. So it just seems like a kind of a rejection of sorts by the audience, and maybe a marketing mishap as well. And it's rated R, and I think Deadpool and Joker maybe have misaligned our expectations for how R-rated movies are supposed to perform. I'm not sure, but maybe that was also a miscalculation. I don't know. I'm happy the movie's good, and I would like to see them maybe go down a Gotham City Sirens path down the line, with maybe bringing Batgirl into the fold. That's the one missing link to all of this. But yeah, it's a very peculiar box office. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, I thought the movie was pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's a good movie. I think it's a bit of a mess sometimes in the way that it's structured, and that might even be intentional at points. Like it's told from the perspective of Harley Quinn for most of the movie, so I think
Mm-hmm.
it's supposed to make you feel a little bit like the manic,
Yeah.
depressive Harley Quinn in this.
Mm-hmm. Very
Um,
Halsey.
Yes, and, like the specifically, there's a scene where, yeah, you see her saying parlay, and then the next scene you see her in, she's shooting up a police station. Then they have to rewind in her mind to explain things. So
Right.
to me, like some of that works, some of it doesn't. Um, I just feel like maybe trying to come up with an explanation for why this movie didn't do as well as it was expected to. Maybe it was Oscar weekend, and I don't know the numbers of how movies usually do when they're released on Oscar weekend, but I know a lot of people this weekend who are using this time to watch Marriage Story or The Two Popes or other Oscar movies that they can watch at home, because they wanted to catch up before they watch tonight. Now that doesn't mean that that counts for everybody. My theater was fairly full when I went. Um, but it just feels like uh, this isn't a movie that was very memorable in my book either. Like, I don't think this is a movie that I'm gonna, go and tell my friends like, you gotta go see this. Like, it's good, it's fine,
Right.
but
Yep.
it's not amazing. So, I don't know. Overall, I think this is a win for DC because it seems like this is probably their most intriguing character beyond Wonder Woman. Shazam obviously is also up there, as you mentioned. Aquaman seems like it might also be a hit for them, and if we ever get the Flash, that might also be. So they might really be finding their footing. But I don't know. The only real thing that's gonna be memorable to me about this is Ewan McGregor's outfits. I mean, dog, he was his wardrobe was flames the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like the way they slightly tweaked Black Mask as kind of being like a trust fund brat. I like that little spin on it. And Hugh McGregor is really bringing this kind of malevolent energy to his line readings the whole time. So I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed his energy with Zaz. I think Messina played Zaz slightly understated while still making it very clear he's a psychopath. That's a little different than him being, I think, much more on the nose in the comics and whatnot. But yeah, you're right. I think you read the reviews. You look at that Rotten Tomatoes, that 80%. And you're like, I mean, everyone's saying, yeah, it's pretty good, and no one's saying it's amazing, and like it doesn't. I don't think it reaches the highs of like a Wonder Woman does. And I think Shazam does. I think it's just a little tighter storytelling. But yeah, I kind of liked the non-linearity in the early goings, just because I think it fit that manic energy as you were mentioning. It kind of felt like the way a Harley story would be told to us. It was certainly a choice, though. You're right. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's a kind of simple MacGuffin, and then Cassandra Cain is just kind of being the wielder of the MacGuffin,
right?
And
a vehicle for Harley Quinn's humanity in this, to like show
right, and ultimately. And so we're going to get Harley Quinn again next year in The Suicide Squad, August 2021 from James Gunn. That's like almost done filming. Maybe they hedged a little bit on what Harley is, because Harley's just kind of like deranged and clearly off her rocker in Suicide Squad. This time, she seems a little bit more well-intentioned, if still, not having all her marbles for sure. But she kills the bad guys but doesn't kill the cops. It's like they almost kind of hedged how bad or mean they wanted to make her, which is then kind of weird because like the R rating just allowed for some extra violence and some cursing. I do think a lot of the action when it happened I enjoyed. It was pretty badass, like when she slams on that guy's leg in like the club. That was brutal.
A lot of legs being broken in this.
Yeah,
it's tough stuff.
And like there was talk of reshoots, again, not an uncommon thing with franchise films, but you wonder if maybe they wanted to like reset the ball. It just didn't that be the main goal for this, kind of reset the Harley character. But again, the box office suggests that the Harley character is not as big a draw as we might have expected. Again, she's a very popular, albeit new, relatively speaking, character from the animated series. But that's a really small number, man. So I don't know where they'll go from here. But again, we're going to see her in Suicide Squad, and that'll be as part of an ensemble once again. So it'll be a long time before I think we're considering a solo or Harley and Friends movie once again. But yeah, this is directed by Kathy Yan. She only has one film to her credit, Dead Pigs. That wasn't even released here in the U.S. Kind of strikes me as a Marvel hire, a Marvel of old anyway, where you hire someone who's a little inexperienced or on the rise, that you can adapt them to what you want. And Harley was involved in the production of this, so you wonder how much creative juice DC really brought to it, or they were just kind of happy just to put it out. Because like Shazam, this is a modestly budgeted for a superhero movie. It's like under 100 million. So yeah, overall, I have positive thoughts on it. So I thought it was pretty fun. I enjoyed Matthew Libatique's cinematography, just because it's just colorful. Again, getting away from the early dreary dark we got from the Snyder era, and kind of more shades of Aquaman and Wonder Woman, just being very, very stark and bright. So looking forward to Wonder Woman 1984 in June. But yeah, I think it's not a movie I think people will truly ride for. Maybe there'll be scenes they really like to go back to. But I had a good time with it.
I wanted to ask you, was there any, I have one in particular, I want to see if we're on the same wavelength. Was there a casting that really felt like it was puzzling to you, or maybe just like a miscasting or like a wasted casting?
That's interesting. I really liked Mary Elizabeth Winstead when I got the news, because she's a really talented actress, and I kind of would have liked more from her Huntress. And I think when we're getting her, she's like the overwhelming lack of self-awareness that she's bringing to her character. The crossbow killer, as people keep telling her, she's like, no, I'm Huntress. Like that started landing really well, I think, towards the end. But she's kind of on the periphery of the story for the first two acts. Yeah, I thought Rosie Perez was pretty solid, kind of an inspired choice. I wasn't familiar with Journey Smollett-Bell, and the girl who plays Cassandra Cain is pretty new. So nothing really jumped out to me. What did you have in mind?
And this is like a bit character, but Ali Wong playing the AD, I was like waiting for that moment where she gets to be hilarious Ali Wong, doing something like one of her bits or one of her voices. And just as her playing a straight person, I was like, this just feels like, I don't know, maybe her agent's trying to get her into more serious stuff. It was just so random to me in the end. Maybe they'd want to have an Asian person do it. It was, I don't know.
Yeah, he was a check. I don't know. Small role to have a big check attached to it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I have to imagine. So, yeah, but I actually thought Chris Messina as Zaz was probably the person that stood out to me in this. He was like menacing and just insane, and I couldn't like place him. I was like, where do I know this guy from? And I remember him mostly from the Newsroom, but also like we saw him in Sharp Objects, just last year? So
2018.
He's a good actor. 2018, 2 years ago. Any last thoughts before we wrap up on Birds of Prey?
No, it's another step in the right direction for DC, something that's been said for 5 movies now.
We're going to be saying
4 movies. Ever since Justice League, that's all we've been hearing.
We're going to be saying that till the end of time.
Yeah. Good job. Step in the right direction once again.
Yep, just constant kids' gloves with this thing. Well, we're going to wrap it up there for this week. Dave, what do we got for next week?
A number of really high-profile things for next week. Tame Impala album.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber album. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Finally releasing wide here in the U.S. for Valentine's Day weekend. Other stuff like Sonic the Hedgehog movie, finally here after the delay. To All the Boys I Loved Before too on Netflix. And I think we'll be doing our early Oscars.
Hell yeah.
As well. Lots of things to consider there. Oh, and High Fidelity with Zoe Kravitz is going to be premiering on Hulu on Friday. So
a lot of stuff. Stuff. Stay tuned.
It's coming.
And follow us at NowstalgiaPod on Twitter. Go to soundcloud.com/NowstalgiaPod and also youtube.com/NowstalgiaPod. Give us that subscribe, that 5-star rating, review on iTunes. And we'll catch you next week. Peace.